What's up, guys? It's Akemi, and this is Akemi Kai Inner Beauty, where we improve our outer world by improving our inner world. I like to talk about law of assumption and inner work. So today I wanted to come on and talk about what do I want to talk about today? I want to talk about let's just practice. I want to talk about the sprinkle like red pill stuff that's online. So I just wanted to make a video on this. It's not going to be long, but I just wanted to talk about it because, one of the things that I talk about a lot on here is how important it is if you're doing law of assumption and you're really trying to stay focused on your inner conversations and what kinds of stories you're telling yourself and what kind of narrative you want to experience and create versus all the narratives that are out there on TikTok when you're scrolling, right? It's really important when you are scrolling and things are popping up in your news feed that you're very discerning in what kind of narratives you're exposing yourself to and like what you're like seizing and like feeding into yourself and making yours, right? Like, so let me give you an example. Say that I'm trying to manifest, like, let's just do SP because that's what everybody loves to talk about, right? So there's a person in your life that you want to improve your relationship with. You want it to go better. You want to get closer. And so let's say your story is, you're working on your inner concept, your self-concept, and you're like, I'm with this person, we're happy, we're, married, we're whatever. We're living together, we're dating, we're having a great time, we love each other, we're best friends, we're lovers, everything is flowing and harmonious. I'm the best version of myself, he's the best version of himself. And then you open up TikTok and you see sprinkle, sprinkle, or like any version of content that's like red pill stuff, like totally strategic, transactional relationships where men don't trust women and women don't trust men. They both think the worst of each other. They're both using strategy to try to get what they want from the other person. They don't trust them. Their heart's not open and they don't believe that a loving, trusting, open relationship is possible. So it's usually based on lying, right? So, the sprinkle, sprinkle, black cat kind of content where it's all like, I'm the prize and I'm amazing and like a man should pay me for my time spent with them, and like if they don't bring me a gift before the date, like I won't see them again, and dark feminine tricks and manipulation tactics, and okay, it's endless, right? That stuff. Or the red pill stuff where men are like, women only want me for my money. She doesn't really care about me. She's totally using me to be a provider for her, and then she's just like only interested in my bank account and what I can do for her financially. And then like if I marry her, she's just gonna divorce me and take half of everything that I've built. So I'm not going to trust women, and I'm not going to be honest with them, and I'm not gonna like give them my heart. I'm only gonna have transactional sexual encounters where I get what I want out of it, and I am not gonna trust those girls, and I'm going to be testing them all the time for their intentions, and I'm going to lie to them and not let them know that I'm juggling multiple relationships at the same time, because as a man, I'm entitled to be poly, and I don't have to tell her about that. She doesn't get to choose what she's involved in. Like, I'm just going to lie to her and tell her what she wants to hear in order to get what I want. Okay, like, I just want to put it out there that, first of all, both sides of this equation, these are heartbroken frequencies. Okay, I want to have some compassion if you encounter people like this in your life that are listening to coaches from either side of the spectrum, or if you yourself have in the past or sometimes get caught up in listening to online coaches that are coming from those perspectives. I just want to say that the kind of people that get pulled into those narratives are people who've had a very deep heartbreak where they trusted somebody and that person betrayed them deeply, and they don't want to experience that again, right? So now they're taking on this strategic approach to relationships, and like they're gonna, never let anybody put them in that place where they were so vulnerable and got taken advantage of ever again. Okay. So if you do encounter anyone like that, I want you to, instead of like arguing with them or getting into some kind of a fight with them or whatever, just see it for that. Be like, okay, that person has got some big wounding from some relationship that they were in where they were deeply betrayed and hurt, and they're trying to protect their heart, and they're also trying to reclaim their power that they lost during that experience, and they're on a path of like trying to reclaim their power from that. So the thing is, don't interact with it or argue with it or absorb those narratives. Just recognize like that's a frequency that is not going to serve you for getting to where you want to go. You're not going to get a loving, open-hearted, deep, emotionally intimate, fulfilling connection with somebody if you're on that frequency. You need to just like not engage with that content and like get on a different frequency. Get on the frequency that is the narrative that you yourself are creating. And the narrative you yourself are creating is not that you want a transactional relationship with where you act like a dark feminine gold digger and he, plays out your sugar daddy fantasies like from your little immature, I'm sorry, but like it is an immature part of yourself, okay, that wants to be a princess. I'm sorry, it is. I can say that because like I definitely have had that part of myself in the past, like wanting to be a princess. It's a daddy wound, okay? It's a daddy wound. You want that provider, you want that daddy. There's nothing wrong with someone giving you something and you being grateful and like super enjoying being provided for or whatever. Like I'm all for that. Don't worry, but if you're just making yourself into candy so that an older man with money will buy you and give you a posh lifestyle, it's not the frequency of relationship that we're trying to manifest with the law of assumption, because that is just transactional, and it's not addressing like the deeper wounds and beliefs and assumptions that are going on, that are playing out in those dynamics. Like, let me take something and give an example so it's more clear. Let me just use myself. So if I want to make myself this dark feminine energy, play up my looks and the shape of my body to get the maximum visual response from a man based on his animal biology, and manipulate his sexual attraction to get what I want from him, which is nice, expensive gifts, fancy restaurants, finances. I want money. I want money. Basically, I want to use my sex to manipulate him and pace him and get as much money out of him as I can. So he's essentially paying me for sex, okay? It's not different than sex workers, and they use a lot of the same strategies, right? And if you start looking at that content on the web, it's all there. So let me just examine it from law of assumption. So if I was in that place and I wanted to examine like what is going on in my inner world, I would look at things like power, my relationship to power. How do I feel about power? What kinds of experiences have I had in the past where I felt like I didn't have enough power? What kinds of sexual and romantic relationships was I hurt in the past where I felt like he had more power than me and I felt exploited, or I felt like being vulnerable in that situation, I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel in control, and that person treated me in such a way that I ended up feeling victimized. And so now I need to have power. I want to have power. I never want to be in that situation again. It's going to make sure that I understand how to use power and the 48 laws of power. And I got to do my dark femme power dynamics, and I need to approach relationships like they're transactional power plays, and I need to be up on my strategies and make sure that I have power. Okay, so I don't want to be on the frequency of power plays and strategy if I want to get to the core of my sensitive heart and be deeply loved and experience intimacy in a way that I can trust that my partner has my best interests and deeply cares about me and wants me to be happy and seeks me out and wants to spend time with me and genuinely enjoys my company and chose me out of all the different beautiful people that are out there. They chose me, and then what I need to look at are my assumptions about myself and what I deserve and what I'm worthy of and what has hurt me in the past, and clean it up, right? Like I I need to work on being okay with being vulnerable and not feeling like I have to have the upper hand and be in control, um, because control and love are not the same frequency and can't coexist. Um, Trust and safety are not on the same frequency as power and strategy. If you have questions about this or things are coming up while you're listening to it and you want to dive into some aspect of this more deeply, just put a comment and maybe I can unpack and unpick this more in areas that are more helpful. Yeah. But it's food for thought, right? And that's what I do on this channel is I kind of give you some food for thought, and you can work on it with your journaling. And if you have questions, you can post them below. And maybe if I get some like themes or whatever, I can do more videos on that just to kind of unpack some of that stuff. And I try to give you examples, but if you need more examples or whatever, just put feedback down below so that I can like unpack it more. And as with anything on this channel, if it doesn't resonate with you and it's not where you're at and it's not helpful for you, like just go elsewhere. I'm not here to tell you how to think or what is reality or any of that. I'm just here to support you on your journey by sharing like my own processes and how I work through things and how I get to the bottom of stuff. And I just wanted to bring up the red pill sprinkle kind of antagonistic, heartbroken, wounded, power dynamic, strategic content online and point out that it's a frequency. It's a frequency, and it's a really different frequency than love, trust, compassion, kindness, like completely different frequencies. If you feel into it, you can feel it. It's very different. So just be mindful, as always, when you're working on your law of assumption statements or your manifestation statements or your affirmations, however you want to call them, statements of fact. If you encounter something coming up in your FYP or something outside of you that is really like showing up a lot and it's triggering you or it's pulling you in or it's pulling you off your own manifestation statements, like again, get into the habit of like coming back to yourself and being like, okay, what's the energy of that? What is that all about? And is that in me somewhere? Like, do I have a history of relationships where I experienced power dynamics that I felt like I was victimized by? And like, what's my relationship to power? And what are my ideas about power? And how have I experienced power dynamics in relationships that got in the way of love, trust? I'm trying to think of some good examples. Like, I've definitely seen themes like this in my compassion key work. Like, for example, I want to think about this. Like, this is images are really helpful sometimes. So, like, think about like the concubine archetype, like, because it links into things like not being chosen. Okay. So sometimes I find these images and archetypes to be really helpful to work with when you're trying to connect to energy in yourself that you want to like transmute or transform. So think about like the prince and then the concubine. And if you put yourself in that feeling of that power dynamic where he has all the power and you're not chosen, you're not the queen, you're one of many, you know, you don't have the power to get your personal needs met for love. You're just kind of feeling used or mistreated or unseen or unchosen, this kind of stuff. I guess I'm putting that concubine kind of image out there because it's a useful one to find if you have these kinds of themes going on inside you for like power dynamics, unequal power dynamics. Because you're not going to hit the frequency of your manifestation that you're searching for, of being loved and chosen and cherished and adored, and it's reciprocal. If you've got these old ideas and assumptions about power dynamics in love and not being chosen, and not like if that's clanging around in the background. Does that make sense? I intend that this makes sense. If you want to talk more about it, you can post below and maybe we can do another video on the topic going into some more areas about it, but it's food for thought and something to explore in your law of assumption work. I hope that that helps. I hope that you found this helpful today. I hope it gave you food for thought and things to explore on your journey. And as always, keep doing the inner work in order to make your outer world the beautiful experience that you want to have. See you later.